Are you tired of thinking about drinking, trying to control it, and ending up in the same loop? Welcome to the Feel Good Alcohol Free podcast, where high achieving women learn how to step out of the stop start cycle and build a life that feels calm, clear, and alcohol free on purpose. I'm your host, Lindsay, accredited sober coach and former high functioning drinker. After more than a decade of drinking every night while keeping up a big career and a life that looked fine from the outside, I rebuilt my identity from the inside out. Now I help women stop negotiating with themselves and trust their own decisions again. This isn't a podcast full of cliches or willpower pep talks. You're getting real conversations, lived experience coaching, and practical tools you can use inside your actual life, not perfect conditions. So take a breath. You're here because you're ready to feel good in your real life. So let's get started. I'm really excited to bring this conversation to you today. I am welcoming Alanna McGinn. She is a certified sleep expert, certified divorce specialist, and founder of Good Night Sleep site. Since 2007, she's helped clients improve their sleep, manage stress, and restore balance in their lives. She's done this through her signature programs, the Messy Middle Sleep Solution, and How to Sleep Your Way Through Divorce. Alanna's mission is to help women rest, recover, and rebuild with strength and peace. Alanna hosts the Bedtime Edit podcast. You can follow Alanna's expert advice in national publications like Forbes, Maclean's, Reader's Digest, Push, and Prevention magazine. And you can catch her regular appearances on breakfast television and The Morning Show. Okay. Maybe you're asking yourself, what does this have to do with alcohol? And before we dive into my conversation with Alanna, here's what I want to say about that. Both topics, sleep and divorce, are deeply intertwined with the conversation around alcohol. For so many years, I thought that alcohol was the key to falling asleep. And spoiler alert, it's not doing our sleep health any good at all. And then there's divorce, something that many of my clients are working through or have worked through, and alcohol has played a role in that. So it's an important conversation and one that is not always talked about so openly, especially through the lens of alcohol. I hope that you find this episode helpful and supportive as you navigate your own journey, and let's just dive right in. I am so excited to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Alanna McGinn. I am founder of Good Night Sleep site and AlannaMcGinn.com. I am a sleep coach, certified divorce specialist, and I work with babies to adults to corporations. We work one-on-one with our clients. We work through online programs, and I always say my lane is sleep, and I like to educate individuals and children on the importance of sleep health.
Oh, that's amazing to me because my favorite time of the day is when I get to climb into my bed and go to sleep.
Same. Yeah.
And I love the title, Certified Sleep Expert. So I'd love to hear more about that and what led you there.
So when I was pregnant with my first in 2007, she turned 18 in September, which is crazy. You know, you have your first baby and they talk a little bit about sleep in, the prenatal classes and things like that. But really until your baby is home with you, you don't realize how little sleep you were going to get. But the term sleep training, that industry wasn't really around when I first had my baby, 18 years ago, to hire someone to help you sleep train your child. So a lot of it was self-learned through her. She did great, as did I. And then it just kind of snowballed, helping friends and then friends of friends, and the word kind of traveled because, again, no one was really around to do that. And then I got certified through the Family Sleep Institute, one of the most in-depth and renowned sleep training certifications, and then grew Good Night Sleep site. So now I have consultants throughout Canada and the US. We're all certified as FSI consultants. My focus is adults, mainly midlife women, helping them sleep better as we go through that midlife transition. I'm still working with kids and babies, and that's kind of how it started.
The demand is high for this. So I'm 47, and the number of friends that I have who send me the I slept like garbage or woke up at midnight and 3 and 5, like text messages it's everybody.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm 49. Thankfully, my sleep is good. It's not just because of what I do, but it is obviously something that I prioritize. But it's just it's a common issue, especially in that midlife space. You know, whether we're talking about perimenopause and menopause, obviously the shift in hormones will affect our sleep. But this is also a time in our life where we go through major life transitions, you know, whether it be, in the past 5 years, I went through a divorce. So with that relationship lost, that's what led me to also get certified as a divorce specialist and kind of meld the two worlds. That was the time of my life where my sleep really did take a hit. You know, I'm raising 3 teens, going through a divorce, running my own business, and my sleep definitely was affected by that. And I see it happen with women, whether they're, going through divorce or not, but they're maybe changing careers, children are leaving the house, caregiving, we have to take care of our parents. We're that sandwich generation. And unfortunately, our sleep is very finicky, right? When something is off in our world, physically, emotionally, mentally, the first thing that goes is our sleep. So it was important for me to be able to create proper education and programs for that space for women, for sure.
There's one word that comes to mind as you're saying all of these things, and it's ambiguity. When we're dealing with those situations, divorce or, uncertainty around our parents and their
Yeah.
health and like all of these circumstances, there's so much unknown to worry about.
A big part of my programs is not just sleep, but it's also stress management. Often when we think of sleep, we're thinking of, okay, what can we do at night to sleep better, right? So changes in our sleep environment, changes in our bedtime routine, and those things are very important. That's what we call sleep hygiene. So steps that we can take to sleep well. But so much of what will affect our sleep is what we do throughout the day and in the morning as well. So are we learning to manage our stress better? Are we learning proper coping skills? Are we creating a great morning routine? I'm happy to talk about this further, but in my opinion, a great morning routine is even better than a great bedtime routine in terms of sleeping well or not well. Are we able to focus on ourselves a little bit? Introduce, I call it divorce joy because with my divorce programs, but it's also midlife joy. So what are we including? It could be little micro joy moments that we're including in our days that will minimize that stress and that will allow us to become more resilient to when our stress levels get high. These are all very important factors. So it's not just about a great bedtime routine or a great sleep environment. It's also what are we changing in our overall lifestyle and our overall life to help us sleep better.
Oh, yes. I 100% agree that the morning routine is the most important part of the day. What was your relationship with sleep? You kind of mentioned during the period of your divorce that was poor, but like, what was it like and how would you describe it now?
I mean, that was probably the one time in my life, other than when I had babies, and obviously you're not sleeping for a reason, where I would wake up with the rush of worries and concerns and to-do lists and waking up with the beating heart, having difficulties falling asleep at night, creating a proper what I call like a peaceful zone, really having that safe space in my bedroom. I lived with my ex for a year and a half throughout our divorce, which was really hard. It was hard to do. It was hard to sleep well. It was hard to minimize those stress levels. So it was, putting a program really together for me to help me sleep better. Obviously, it wasn't until I was really removed from the situation where I was now in my own space. The divorce was behind me. I was able to now focus on myself and my kids, where I was really able to cement, a better relationship with my sleep. But I would say for a good year or so, there were nights where I was wide awake sleeping. So it was important for me to address what I could do during the day in order to sleep better. Whether that be walking. Walking has always been, we hear a lot about meditation and mindful thinking and being more in a present state of mind to help, reduce our stress levels and alleviate our stress. That is very important. The act of meditation is very important and can work for many. For myself, my form of meditation was walking. I always say I walked before COVID made it cool. I've been walking since I was a teenager. It was a way for me to kind of not only move my body and get in exercise, but it was a way for me to organize my thoughts, be in a more present state of thought. So that was very important for me. I walked every single day, whether it was a snowstorm, whether it was a rainstorm, A, to get out of the house, and B, just to provide that meditation for myself throughout my divorce. I had to allow myself throughout the day to find time to stress so that I wasn't stressing at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that is actually a form, it's called constructive worry. It's when we are so busy throughout the day, we're so easily distracted with work and our families and social media. And, we're unfortunately always kind of in front of a screen absorbing content that we aren't allowing ourselves to work through what we need to work through. So then when we go to bed, the distractions are gone and all those worries and things flood your brain and you haven't allowed yourself time to organize those thoughts throughout the day. So I would actually time box it, give myself 5 minutes throughout the day where I was able to really sit down. I would grab like a piece of white paper, draw a line in the middle, write down the one problem that I knew was going to keep me up at night, and start writing down some solutions to it. So it could be, do research, source out a product or an individual, make a phone call, make an appointment, little steps. I wasn't necessarily solving it in that moment, but I was taking the steps to solve the problem, to work through that problem, so that when I did wake up in the middle of the night, and you're human, that problem's going to, come into your brain and into your mind again. It's normal. I allowed myself time to think, okay, I worked on it today. I'll work on it tomorrow. Now is not the time to work on it. Now is the time to sleep. So when you start practicing that consistently, your body and your brain kind of reacts to that and begins to function as it should at 3 a.m.
Okay, you just said so many things that I can relate to. And first, so the first one being that I'm on my second marriage, and my first marriage, we lived together for like a year and a half while trying to like sell our house. It was just like, it was awful. I never thought it was going to end. So I also feel like my sleep was not great back then. And the other piece was just around the walking. I'm such a big walker. Also, before COVID made it cool. Everything about this 3 a.m. piece. We talk a lot in the alcohol-free side of things where the way that alcohol affects sleep, where you basically, you're kind of going through withdrawals from it. And around 3 a.m. is where you tend to wake up because your body has gone through the cycles. You have interrupted REM cycles at that time. And so what happens is like then you toss and turn for 2 or 3 hours. You can't fall back asleep. And one of the very specific things that I do with my clients is I call it like a structured decompression, but it's exactly what you're describing, where it's like, okay, we need to do a little reflection of our day and we need to make a few notes of the things that are nagging at us and the things we didn't get to so that we're not thinking about them when we don't have time to deal with them. Sleep is obviously something that we all need. Why is it so important? And how do you know if you're actually getting a good night's sleep? Because so many of us have our little watch or our Oura ring and we look at what that says, but like, how do we really know?
Let's start first. Why is sleep so important? So I really do look at sleep. I look at our 4 main pillars of health. One being sleep, nutrition, exercise, moving your body, and connection. If we've figured out anything in the past 5 to 7 years is how important connection is in that daily connection to our overall health and well-being. In my opinion, and that's not just because of what I do, but I feel like sleep is really the foundation of the pillars, because when we're not sleeping well, we're not moving our body. We don't have the energy to go for a walk, to get out, to get in that physical activity. 30 minutes a day is important. 150 minutes per week, even better. We're not making great nutritional choices, right? We tend to crave more carbs, more sugars. Our body isn't able to metabolize food as well. We're not able to digest our food as well. And then in terms of connection, when we are not sleeping well, a lot of us are not a pleasure to be around, let's be honest, when we're sleep deprived, right? But we just, we tend to be more aggravated, shorter fuses, more quick to react. So it really does affect our overall health. The reason why I think sleep takes such a hit, and I know that there's so many more conversations around sleep health, which I love. Again, I've seen that in the shift in the past 5 years. More and more companies are bringing me in to speak to their teams about sleeping better. The problem is that we all sleep. So kind of going along with your other question, how do we know we're getting enough or we're sleeping well? We do sleep. We know when we're not moving our bodies. We know when we're not eating well. We can see the food that we're putting in our mouths and in our bodies. So we know that we need to work out. You'll hear people all the time, especially, come September, come a new year, I'm getting a gym membership. I'm going to go on this cleanse. I'm going to, do this diet. But we all sleep. So we don't necessarily understand that maybe we're not getting the right amount of sleep or the right quality of sleep. So sleep was always kind of brushed aside as something that people really decided to work on. Like I said, there's a shift in that now. People are understanding the importance of sleep health, understanding that they probably need to make some changes to their overall lifestyle in order to sleep better, which is amazing, which I love. I'd like to think that I'm part of that conversation, so I'm happy with that. How do you know you sleep well? Yes, there's metrics. Obviously, you can wear the Apple Watches, you can wear the Oura Rings, you can get all the measurements that show you. I always say it's how do you feel throughout the day? Not necessarily how you feel when you wake up, because you can still wake up wanting to go back to sleep. Like I always say, it's very rare for someone to wake up like Snow White, right? The birds are singing, you bounce out of bed and you're ready to start your day. Like who really wakes up that way, regardless of how they're sleeping, correct?
Seriously.
How are you feeling throughout the day? Are you showing a lot of low energy, a lot of excessive sleepiness? There's a lot of sleep disorders that are often undiagnosed, like sleep apnea. And I'm not just talking about low energy or fatigue, but if you're literally cannot keep your eyes open in the afternoon, you're falling asleep at red lights, you're falling asleep in meetings, that's a sign to me. But you think you're getting those 7 to 8 hours, that's a sign to me that the quality of sleep you're getting isn't proper. So is there a disorder like sleep apnea perhaps going on at night? That's worth having a conversation with your doctor. Generally, how do you feel throughout the night? You know when you're stretching bedtime too late. You know when your eyes are burning because you're constantly in front of a screen before you go to bed. That is going to affect the quality of sleep you get throughout the night. So the numbers matter. Obviously, the best way to really truly monitor your sleep is to have a sleep study done and to get proper EEG metrics and numbers. But I always think like if you feel relatively okay throughout the day and you feel like you are prioritizing your sleep health, I feel like you're doing okay. We don't want you to hyper focus on sleep.
Yeah, I found that one of the biggest changes that I made is I plug my phone in the kitchen and leave it in there at 8 o'clock, and then that's it. And I also don't allow myself to really look at my phone until after I've like exercised and kind of had some quiet non-technology time in the morning. And it goes a long way. It really does. It changed my life.
It does. Coming back to morning routine, that's actually my first tip for morning routine, because how we start our day really dictates how our stress levels will be throughout the day. And that, of course, flows into your bedtime routine. So many of us are using our phones as our alarm clock. Fair enough. But if you are turning off your alarm and the phone's in front of your face and you're checking in your emails, you're checking into the news, which is never great lately, you're checking into social media, you haven't even gotten out of bed yet. Your feet haven't even hit the ground yet. And your brain is already flooded with the chaos of the world or perhaps the chaos of your life. That's going to travel with you throughout the day, right? That's going to elevate those stress levels, which won't allow your melatonin, our natural sleep hormone, to properly release when it needs to at night. I do the same. 30 minutes. I don't look at my phone. I don't check into the world. I take that 30 minutes for me. So that could be getting the kids off to school, having a cup of coffee with my partner or my dog, like doing whatever I need to do, and then check into work and things like that. But I always give myself 30 minutes of non-device time. Bedtime is a bit different. I will say I'm not the sleep coach that will tell you to remove tech at night. And the reason why that is because I do think that there is a place in our evening hours that will allow tech can actually help us sleep. If you've had a really shitty day and your stress levels are high, and there is like, what is your go-to show? Like, what is your feel-good show?
Love is Blind for sure. Like
We're like the same person. Yeah. I haven't watched the reunion yet, so don't tell me. But like anything Bravo, like I love all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like, what is the show that is going, it's my boyfriend always laughs at me. He's like, I can't believe you watch a show where like women are literally screaming at you, but like, that's my stress release. Like that probably says something about me. But for
Yeah.
some reason, it just makes me feel better. But like we all have that go-to sitcom that makes us laugh. Like if watching one episode of a show that just makes you feel good and helps you forget your day before bed, I'm all for it. If there is a friend that you can FaceTime before you go to bed or text with, that we all have the friends and family that fill our buckets, and then we all have the friends and families that deplete our buckets. Don't talk to them right before you go to bed. Talk to the ones that are going to fill your bucket, right? If you're sensitive to the news headlines, set those boundaries. Don't watch the news before you go to bed. So, this isn't me giving your listeners permission to like watch an entire season of a show till 2 o'clock in the morning, because obviously we don't want to be doing that. But I think it's okay to, watch an episode of a show that's going to like just lighten your life a little bit.
I completely agree. I do try to just do one episode. I try not to do the binge of a series anymore because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I need to like move my body. I can't sit on the couch for this. Or my rule is that when I watch Love is Blind, I have to be like on my treadmill or something. I
Oh,
can't.
I love that. Oh, you're better than me.
Well,
I
not
know. I
always.
just binge it. I just watch it.
Because that's a show that I watch by myself. My husband and I have, that's like a whole different level of shows. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
we watch our episode and then I move on with my life. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. I know the evening part, while it's not the biggest deal, it's like we can't be fueling our brains with the garbage that's going on in the world right now, or particularly
No.
like the family member that depletes you. That really resonates with me because it's like then you're just thinking about them all
Yeah.
night, and
Yeah.
it's swirling around in the back of your head, and nobody needs to go to bed and let their subconscious do that work at night.
No, and that's where it's, I teach a lot of my clients, you need to audit your social media feeds, but you also need to audit your in real life feed, right? So this is where, and that's an important conversation, especially for midlife women, because for years we take the brunt of everything, of our kids, of our family, of our husbands, partners, whatever. And I think it's so important that when we get into that midlife space, and I mean, a lot of times I don't have to teach my clients that. They're ready to set those boundaries and they're ready to start focusing on themselves a little bit more. And I love seeing that. I'm not a big, and again, this might go against what you think or what some of your listeners, but I don't believe in the let them theory. It's no, it's like, you got to set those boundaries. And if it means, lighting a match and burning a relationship down, cool. I'm okay with that.
I'm with you there. Boundaries keep the good in and the bad out. Let's shift gears a little bit because sleep is just only one part of your credentials, and the other we've already touched on, and that is divorce. I'd love to hear what you think about the connection between sleep and divorce.
Here's the thing. My clients really kind of merge together. When I'm dealing with a woman who perhaps is happily married and in that midlife space, a lot of what I teach her is similar to what I teach a woman who is going through a divorce, but is also in that midlife space, right? I use a 4-track system. So, we're working on the sleep component, again, focusing on sleep hygiene. So consistent sleep patterns, creating a great sleep environment, create a great bedtime routine, all the fundamentals that will really help you sleep better. There's also a stress management component, and that is huge in divorce. So stress management for divorce could be something as simple as, what is going to teach you different coping skills to be able to read that email from your lawyer or get that text from your ex or enter that court date or that mediation date. It could be something as simple as just getting more organized with, there's a lot of, you've been through it, it, right? There's a lot of documents and financials and things that a lot of women, unfortunately, myself included, are learning for the first time. I was married to a financial planner, so he kind of handled all the finances. I knew the ins and outs, of course, but the meat and potatoes of it all, he always handled that. So there was a lot of financial education that was being thrown at me that I had to learn and gather and organize. So organization is definitely one of them. Another component is going into the setting boundaries, and divorce joy is kind of what I call it. And making sure that, you're going through a really hard time. Joy is not like happiness. It's hard sometimes to be happy when you're going through divorce, whether you initiate it, whether you don't initiate it. Divorce is a hard process. But joy and happiness are not the same things. Happiness is a feeling. I always explain it, it's like a butterfly. It kind of lands on you and then it kind of flutters away. Whereas joy is a choice. We can choose to feel joy and to experience joy even going through a hard time. You don't have to wait until your divorce is over to look for joy and to feel joy and to want to have joy in your life. You don't have to be joyful all the time. I mean, who is? But you can allow joy in. So that's a component of what I teach my clients. And then a big component, obviously, is setting the communication and the boundaries. So whether that be with your lawyer, whether that be a big part, obviously, with your ex. With family, you mentioned family, whether your family is for the divorce or not for the divorce, those sometimes can be very hard conversations that we need to set boundaries around, because that in turn will alleviate that stress.
You are bringing me back to my divorce. This is a
Yeah.
total side note, but when it comes to the boundaries and just like relationships and people who deplete you, I have such an example of this. So my first marriage, my grandmother is a justice of the peace and she performed our wedding and I'm very close with her. And I had told my mom and my dad that I was going to be getting a divorce. And that was obviously really hard. And my parents were divorced. So these were
Okay.
two separate conversations. And about not even what felt like 5 seconds later, my grandmother has already learned that I am getting a divorce.
Oh
And
no.
my mother had told my brother, and my brother immediately called my grandmother to tell her. And it was like, what is even happening right now? And so that was just the beginning of, I'm talking, this is like 16 years ago,
Yeah.
probably maybe 15 years ago. And that was like the beginning of the estrangement between me and my brother. I mean, I use the word estrangement, but really, I have just laid out and stuck with very strong boundaries with him because that was an example of, as an adult, like it's different when you like do that kind of
Yeah.
stuff when you're kids, but as an adult, like this is an example where you're not respecting my privacy, and same with my mom, but like
Yeah.
this is not allowed. And so since then, he has had no insight to my personal life at all. That's really what a boundary is. It's to protect yourself.
100%. Protect your energy.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's your brother or, I've been very firm with my mother on these
Yeah.
things as well. I mean, she's different. I'm not going to shut the door on her. These things and divorce in a family, whether it's with your sibling or just somebody that you're close with, it affects a lot of people. Um,
100%.
and so I can see how it's all of these relationships in your life that are kind of going through a bit of a tumultuous time. And there's that can affect your sleep.
100%. I mean, in my situation, I was very, very, very fortunate where I had very supportive parents. But his parents and my parents were like best friends. So there was a breakdown of that relationship, a breakdown of our relationship. My sister, my poor parents, also went through a divorce at the same time that I did. So it was like both their daughters. Yeah, we really know how to give it to my parents. But again, they were like amazing. I couldn't have done it without them. They were amazing. But for me, a big part of the setting boundaries was obviously with my ex, and therapy was huge for me and huge for my sleep for sure. And I did that throughout the divorce while we were living together. And, there was a lot of, obviously, as you know, we don't need to get into specifics, but when you're living with someone, there was, in the beginning of that, there was a lot of times that I wasn't proud of and how I reacted or what I instigated. And it was therapy that kind of helped me realize the only thing you control is you. Right. So and that was a big boundary for me. The only thing I control was how I reacted and how I responded and how I behaved. I could never control how he would behave or react. So that was something to this day, I am very cognizant of, very strict on in terms of setting boundaries for myself, and is how I respond and how I react. And that in turn has helped my sleep because I don't have those. The thing with the term of letting it go is a big lesson that I teach my clients is when we wake up and we're going through that situation, that event, that conversation, whether it be divorce, whether it be anything that's going on in your life, and we're replaying it. What if I would have said this? We want control, right? When we control, we win. When we let stuff go, we're kind of admitting to losing, but it's not that, right? So that was a big lesson for me, because that was something that I had a really hard time doing, was just letting it go. Not let them. That's a different thing. But
Yeah.
letting things go and understanding that I don't need to win every conversation. I don't need to explain myself anymore. I don't need him or them or whoever to see my side. I know my truth. I know my side, and that's fine with me. So, and that in turn will help you sleep better, because I'm not now waking up at 3 a.m. thinking, oh, but what if this happens? What, I should have said this. You know what I mean? That's
Oh my
huge.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely know what you mean. What is that saying? Not my monkeys, not my circus, or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
oh gosh, yes, yes. What is something that you wish that you knew when you were going through all of this yourself, and especially like before you actually like started the process?
Something that I was happy that I did, and one advice that I always give anyone that comes to me who, I don't divorce, I don't do the legal side of it with my coaching, because that's just not, I'm not a lawyer, that's just not
Yeah.
what I do. But a piece of advice that I always give any woman who is either thinking about it, maybe you haven't said it out loud yet, or maybe you're just at the start: get all your ducks in a row before you even say the word divorce. In terms of financials, in terms of documents, get everything that you might need. And I was very fortunate to have done that. And I think that that's very important. Something I wish I did better, obviously, my behavior in some of it, of course, I wish I could take that. But the good thing is that I've worked on myself, and I like to say that that's not a part of my life anymore. I can't even remember the last time I raised my voice, and I'm very proud of that. Obviously, with my kids, it was important for me to make sure that they were okay throughout the process. My kids are rock stars. They probably knew we should have gotten a divorce before we even knew we should have gotten a divorce. So I like to say, and listen, I have to credit my ex as well for that. I feel like we've done very well with them in terms of how we parallel parent versus co-parent, but how we are handling the situations with our kids. They've gone through it, and they're great, and I can't take all the props to that.
I love that. Yeah. Getting your ducks in a row is
So
probably
important.
it's so important. I
Yeah.
also did the same. I talked to my dad about it first, and he helped me get my ducks in a row.
Right? Oh, I've had conversations with my dad in the driveway on the car. Yeah, absolutely. Have a conversation with a lawyer. Like, get
Yep.
all the information, get clear on what you have to do before you start the process.
I'd love to layer in alcohol into this
Yeah.
discussion, and specifically paired with, divorce and sleep. So, based on your work with, we'll go on divorce specifically, how have you seen alcohol play out in the process and the experience? And then, secondly, we can kindly talk about how it impacts the quality of sleep, but really like going through a big change in your life, like divorce.
I mean, unfortunately, for some individuals, when going through any kind of major transition in life, whether it be divorce or anything, turning to a certain substance like alcohol can, help kind of numb the pain, numb the process. And I do see that with some of my clients for sure. It's a conversation that we need to have. Has your alcohol intake increased in going through this situation? And you mentioned a little bit before, but yes, alcohol can definitely act as that sedative, allow us to fall asleep easier. It could be used, whether it be used to kind of numb pain, numb the process. It could also be used as if you are struggling with sleep because you are going through a hard time like a divorce. Are you using alcohol as that sleeping pill to help you fall asleep? Right. And I see that a lot. What individuals don't understand is, yes, alcohol might help you fall asleep, but as it leaves your system, as it metabolizes, as you mentioned, normally in the later half of the night, so in that 3 a.m. part, the sedative wears off, and now it's fragmenting our sleep. Now it's making us wake up. It's fragmenting our REM sleep, which is so important to get. So yes, unfortunately, I do see that. I don't see it all the time, but I will see people turning to alcohol to kind of get them through the process, not realizing that that's not allowing them to sleep as well as they should be sleeping, especially through a divorce. Sleep is I always say, sleep is a legal tool. You need good sleep to be clear minded, to make sound decisions, to not react poorly. Sleep is important, and alcohol is not the answer for that.
Oh my gosh, yes. And one of the things that the women that I work with, we talk about is like, you want to forget about what is going on in your life. You want to check out from it. But alcohol is just, giving you that temporary relief, but all of those problems are waiting for you the next day. Like, the relief will come when you resolve and like your problems, when you get resolution. And the only way to do that healthily is to have that clear mind and, check off the boxes. Like, you've got to get all this done. And alcohol causes us to procrastinate, and because we don't feel our best and because we're not getting good sleep. And so it's like, it's just such a ripple effect. And
also, I work in like that midlife space. So not only is alcohol overall not great for our health, but how we metabolize alcohol also changes as we get older. So, what you could handle before, or what your body could handle before, isn't necessarily what your body can handle now. And, there's a lot of fragmented sleep from that too. I mean, I know we kind of briefly talked about this before we started recording, but I'm not a big drinker. I've never been really a big drinker. I will have the odd glass of wine here or there, but it's not normally in my life or in my lifestyle. But I know that when I do at 49, that, one glass of red or white wine that I used to be able to have at dinner, I know if I have it, my sleep is going to be rocked that night. So I make like a conscious effort to be like, okay, I'm prepared for a bad night of sleep so I can have this glass of wine. But it changes as you get older and as you start going through perimenopause and menopause and all of that.
yeah, that's one of the big reasons why a lot of women want to quit.
Yeah.
But then when they go to try to quit, they realize how difficult that is. And because it's like you think, oh, I need to just stop drinking. And then when you look around, it's like, oh, I didn't actually realize how much of my life alcohol was kind of present. And
Yeah.
so you have to navigate all of these things. And
Yeah.
so working through a lot of these like underlying issues that are leading women to drink, some of them, that we mentioned earlier, maybe specifically divorce, is something that we explore a lot inside my group or the women I work with inside Feel Good AF. So long term, the results are incredible, including like, we get that restful sleep for the first time in maybe years when alcohol is out of your system. But in the short term, it can be really hard to simply like get through the night. And I'm wondering, so we started to talk a little bit about this earlier, but what are some of the tactics that women can use to support sleep, like in their early days of sobriety, knowing that even like as alcohol is detoxing out of your system, it is sleep is really pretty poor until around the second week.
Yeah, and then that's the biggest struggle, right? You get those sleepless struggles as your body is withdrawing from alcohol. So, obviously commitment is one. You feel tired, you're not sleeping, so you maybe turn back to alcohol to help you fall asleep. So, really committing, understanding that is the process is what you're going through. But for me, for my clients who are perhaps not only going through a shift in life, but also removing substance like alcohol. It could be, just making sure you have a great bedtime routine in place. I call it the slow down hour. So give yourself an hour before bedtime. Break that hour up in 3 20-minute increments. So the first 20 minutes is preparing for the next day. It's getting that to-do list off your brain that many of us have, right? So it could be simply writing out your grocery list, writing out your to-do list for tomorrow, your business goals for tomorrow, packing your lunches, getting your kids' bag ready for school, picking out your outfit, like whatever you don't want swimming in your brain at 3 o'clock in the morning if you wake up, do that at night. The next 20 minutes is all about you. So it's showering, it's all the skincare, all the things that we do, right? It's the normal hygiene, not sleep hygiene, but the normal hygiene that we do before we go to bed. And then the last 20 minutes is those calming activities that work best for you. So it could be watching one of your favorite shows. It could be reading. It could be mindful thought, meditation, bedtime yoga, just talking to, if you're going through divorce, but you have a new partner, talking to them before you go to bed or doing whatever you want before you go to bed. but having those relaxing activities. And you can block it however you want. I mean, you can wash your face before you write out your to-do list, take those 20-minute, those 3 20-minute increments and stack them however you want to stack them. But incorporating a great consistent schedule and a great bedtime routine, I think, is really important. For me, really creating a great sleep environment was super, like, my bedroom was my sanctuary. Especially once I was in my own space, I really protected that space in terms of how I felt when I walked into my bedroom. I wanted to walk into my bedroom, and as anyone should, you want to feel that instant association between sleep and relaxation and sleep and calmness. That's hard to do when you're going through a divorce and you're still living with your ex. But in my own space, it was very important for me to, down to the bedding that I had on the bed, the colors on my walls, the colors of my bedding. I always say, think of your five senses. What do you see, hear, taste, smell, and feel? That was very important for me to create that peaceful zone in my home that was just mine. Now it's mine and my boyfriend's, but it's still that peaceful zone for me. That was very important. So sleep environment and routine, I think, are two important steps to take for sure.
Yes. And everything that you really described helps with calming down your nervous system and settling you in. And I love the idea. I love how you called it a slow down hour. I love that. So, it's just, it really is the most important thing. I'm reflecting back to the very beginning of our conversation where sleep seems like the most important pillar. That's kind of where I'm at.
I think it is, personally.
So, what are some of the biggest misunderstandings that you hear around sleep? And what's the truth? What's the facts that you want people to know?
Well, I mean, the biggest one is obviously, like, why is sleep so important? I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's always kind of the last thing on your to-do list. But it is important. I mean, for everything that we just talked about, we need to value our sleep health as well as we do any other kind of aspect of our health. So I do think that again, that mindset is shifting, which I'm very happy about. Probably my biggest sleep myth is kind of what I've already talked about. I don't know if you remember, it was kind of during the COVID time, but there was that bedtime procrastination revenge theory that came out, or bedtime revenge procrastination. I can't remember how it was, but it was basically mainly women. It was basically like, don't tell me that I can't do these things in the evening hours, because that is the only time that I have for myself, right? And in all honesty, it was during that time where my mindset shifted in what I taught my clients, because I was very much like, tech is the biggest sleep buster, and it is. Like, if you want my honest opinion, the biggest sleep buster in our lives is technology, hands down. That is, I will still say that. We're always in front of a screen. It's not so much the blue light, the brightness, like, that you will hear. I mean, that is important, but it's also just, what are we consuming? We're constantly consuming, right? So I still agree with that. If you are listening to this and you're like, okay, my sleep is awful and I have to make some serious changes, the best thing you can do is remove tech from your bedroom, 100%. But if you're listening to this and you're like, my sleep's okay, but I probably could make some changes, I think it's okay. Like, going back to that bedtime revenge procrastination, like, those evening hours are gold. As a mom of 3 kids, of owning my own business, that's when the kids, I mean, my kids now are teens, so they don't really need me at night anymore. They kind of go off, but, like, I still have to feed them and love them. But, like, there's a cutoff time when they're like, okay, cool, I've been loved enough. I'm going to go to my room. See you tomorrow. But it's like, when our kids are taken care of and that's done, and maybe they're, the younger kids, they're now asleep and the kitchen's clean and dinner's done and you're done your work and your normal, responsibilities of the day are done. And now it's like, I have 2 to 3 hours where I can do whatever I want to do. And I am so happy about that. So, like, who am I to tell you, like, well, don't watch TV, don't go on your phone, don't do all the things that bring you joy, right? Joy is such a big part of it. So I like to break that myth, and we've already talked about it. So, you can, again, set the boundaries, include that into your evening hours. Just don't do it till 2:00 in the morning.
I feel like there's a big difference between watching a show and scrolling social media. Like,
yes,
because
100%.
You open up social media and you look up and you're like, whoa, where did 3 hours go? But
totally.
a
Yeah.
show comes on and you're actively deciding next episode or not.
Yeah. But you can set your alarm for bedtime too, right? If there's accounts that you follow that make you laugh, um, set your alarm for bedtime. When that alarm goes off, TikTok is shut down and it's time for bed, or it's time to start your slowdown hour. You can do that. Alarms aren't just for the morning, they could be for the evening as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I set the little like timer alarm thing on
Yeah.
my phone for all kinds of things if I'm getting
Same.
into. We're very action oriented around here. So you've already
I love
given
it.
some really amazing tips. I'm wondering, how can we package up this little routine or low hanging fruit, as I like to say,
Yeah.
action plan to improve sleep? And maybe they can add on to it.
I think routine is a big part of it, right? So if you can take any actionable items that I've given you for your morning routine and then your bedtime routine as well, like really bookend your day with a great routine that will help reduce stress, because stress and sleep go hand in hand, and that's so much of what I teach. So incorporate. So what's your slowdown hour going to look like? Again, 1 hour, 3 20-minute increments. What are you going to include in that? That's your bedtime routine. Morning routine, a few things to consider. One is give yourself that 30-minute time to not check in with the world, and just give yourself that 30 minutes for you, whatever that might include. Immerse yourself in natural light. Thankfully, we're going into a season now where there's going to be more light in the morning, so that's great. That works out well. But also it's a great time to move your body, right? So if you are going to incorporate exercise, which we all should be doing, especially in that midlife space, morning is a great time to do it. And it doesn't have to be like a HIIT class or a jog. It could just be simple stretching. It could be yoga. It could be Pilates. It could be just going for a simple walk. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Taking your dog for a walk. Those three things I think are really important to do in the morning.
Yes, yes. Morning movement. There's a little saying that one of my clients taught me, and it's all or something. Like, we don't have to have this all or nothing attitude. If you only have 10 minutes, do something for 10 minutes.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
what is your number one non-negotiable in your daily life to protect your own sleep?
Ooh, that's good. My number one non-negotiable. For me, it's bedding. Like, I love a good pillow and a good blanket. So I take like a lot of stock on that. That is kind of a non-negotiable. And that is so, often a question I'm asked is, what's the best mattress? What's the best pillow? What's the best blanket? It's so dependent on your own individual sleep needs that I can't be like, use this mattress. This is the best pillow. It really depends on the
Yeah,
individual. But for me, like a good pillow, a good pillowcase, a good duvet and cover, and I am happy. Like,
I
yeah,
love
that
that.
is non-negotiable for me. Yeah.
Same, same. I tell my husband regularly how much I love our bed.
Oh, I get in and it's like the groans. It's like, yes, same.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite. And then we have every week when I tell him, I mean, it's always the same day, but I'm like, it's clean sheet night. Like, it's fancy sleep night. And that's like,
I
don't
love
even,
that you just said that. Yeah. Yeah.
like, don't even think of coming into this bed without taking a shower first.
I wish my boy, he's downstairs working right now in his office, and I wish he could hear you saying that, because clean sheet day is like the best. And same, it's like, it's clean sheet night. You need to shower.
Yep. That's the
Yeah.
everything shower for us women. It's the
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yes.
it's my favorite. I climb into bed extra early that night and
It's the
it's
best.
amazing. We're almost out of time here, but what is something that you are doing in your life right now that makes you feel good AF?
Oh, so since, I say a new relationship, we've been together now for 2 years. Music is a big part of my life, always has been. Thankfully, it is his as well. So live music for us is huge. We try and make it a point to go to at least a concert a month if we can do it. It doesn't have to be a huge concert by any means, but just listen to live music in whatever way that is. That is a big thing. That's my joy. So that's what I love. So we try and incorporate that into our lives as much as we can.
I love it. That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a really good
Yeah.
one. And this has been such a good conversation. I know that my audience is going to love it. So we're going to link everything below where they can find you.
Yes, thank you.
If this episode landed for you, it would mean a lot if you left a review or take a quick screenshot of it and share it on social media. That's how this show reaches more women who are ready to stop living in the drinking loop and start leading themselves with confidence again. I'm on a mission to change the way high-achieving women think about alcohol, because you don't need more willpower or more rules around your drinking. You need real support, real tools, and the truth about what's actually possible for you. So keep showing up for yourself, keep telling the truth about what you want. And remember, the life you want isn't found in a glass or a bottle of wine. It's built in the decisions that you can stand behind, the ones that you feel really good about. My DMs are always open, and I can't wait to get to know you better. I will see you next week in the next episode.